Funny bones of the Manx public are set to be tickled again. 9 Across Comedy is coming up next week. And to tell us more, we're joined by our very own Rhian Evans. I'd like to take credit for that intro there, but unfortunately I just pinched it from your website, Rhian. Just tell us, first of all, just remind us about 9 Across Comedy. What is it all about?
So basically it's just an attempt to get a regular comedy scene going on the Isle of Man. So primarily starting by bringing over professional UK comedians in the hope that this will sort of coax out Manx talent and sort of basically give people a platform to try out a bit of stand-up on. And they've introduced stand-up into the Guild recently, so that's brilliant. So I'll be down there hopefully recruiting, watching. But yeah, I just think there's a big gap in the market for it, and who doesn't love a little bit of stand-up comedy?
Absolutely. And that recognition in the Guild is huge, isn't it? Because it's, say, inspiring the next generation of comics, and just a recognition of just how valuable that is as an art form, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such an intimidating art form. But I think when people have the opportunity and see other people, even if it's just one person trying it, it inspires other people to give it a go as well. So,
and you've already done one event. Was that 2-3 months ago? Was it?
That was in October, at the end of October.
So how did that go for you?
That was way better than I was ever expecting, because I was dreading, like, the money side of it doesn't bother me in the slightest. The only thing I dread is bringing over professional comedians and having them perform to an audience of, like, me, and I was blown away, because I don't know if it's a Manx thing, but there was a late surge in the final few days.
It most definitely
because
is.
I was there, I was sweating. I was like, oh, this is going to be awful. I'm going to need to get like cardboard cutouts to like just make it look full. But the place was packed. Like I think the capacity was 100 people, and there was about 90 people there. So I was blown away by it. It was brilliant.
And in terms of encouraging new talent, you had somebody performing there. How did they do?
We had Al Bell and Joe Johnson try and stand up. I think it was Al's second time and Joe Johnson's very first time. They did brilliant. Hats off to them. It's an intimidating thing in itself. I don't know if it's more intimidating when you've got a bunch of people that you know in the audience watching you, or strangers, and they both had both. So they went on stage and just absolutely smashed it.
Do you do any performing yourself in this?
No.
Do you don't get up and no?
No, one of the comedians that came over told me to go on stage and just introduce the acts, and that was enough for me, because it was a massive ego boost, because most of the people in the room knew me. So as soon as I got on stage, because people were a little bit tipsy, I just got a chair and I was like, oh God, I could do this. I feel great right now.
But you're really humble about your own talents, though, because you do writing, don't you?
Oh, that's very kind, Beth. I try and write. I try and write a bit of sort of... I love Bill Bryson and Charlie Brooker and Caitlin Moran, and they're all very topical writers with a lot of sarcasm laced in it and a bit of silliness and humour. So I try and write some longer articles. I need to do one for this comedy night and comedy on the Isle of Man. I just need someone to give me a boot, really.
Because you did win an award with Jeff the Mongoose, didn't you, just before Christmas?
Yeah, that was a massive, lovely, lovely surprise. I wasn't expecting that in the slightest. It was their most read article of last year, and it was just called 10 TT Truths, and it was basically me just sat at home unemployed, just writing nonsense about like the stereotypical things that happen over TT, and just really over exaggerating it to the point of being a little bit indecent. But apparently lots of people like to read that, so that was a lovely surprise.
Those kind of things though do hit the mark, because you often see these floating around on the internet, 20 things,
it was quite BuzzFeedy,
your Manx when these 20 things appear, and there's a big thing for those at the moment.
Exactly. I think so long as you can write something that people can relate to, then it usually gets a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, people love that observational comedy, don't they? And I just wish I was the sort of person who could stand up and just perform off the top of your head. And you see that with so many comedians who come over here, that they just have that great ability to be able to manipulate any situation as it's there before them. And the wonderful thing for an audience about a night like this, Rhi, is that it just takes them away from themselves. You can forget about the rest of the world and just kind of just relax and have a bit of a giggle.
It's just something different. I mean, I don't think people sitting in the front row can relax, because I always avoid the front row, but I'm happy to tell people to sit in the front row. But just something different. And a lot of the comments, people were buzzing. I didn't have a negative comment after the last night, which was really, really nice. But a lot of people were like, oh, they're really good. And I was like, well, they're professionals. Like this is what they do as a career. So I'm glad that people were so pleasantly surprised by it, and yeah, hopefully it continues and more people come back.
Yeah, do you think this